content over everything.
The question was that Christians, they started World War I and World War II. Non-Muslims were involved.
Okay, let me address that point. Let me address that point. So the question is, Christians started World War I and World War II, not Muslims.
Yeah, he said that.
Let's just deal with that for a moment. Because the reality is World War I was started by an ideology of nationalism which is in direct contradiction to the Christian faith. Christians are not nationalists. Christians form a pan-confederacy of ethnicities and nations bound together in their love for Jesus Christ. During World War II, that was an ethno-nationalistic ideology, and it is interesting that the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, a Muslim, sided with Hitler because he also hated the Jews.
That's right.
It was interesting that the Albanian Muslims sided with the Nazis and had a special division of the Waffen SS in the Waffen SS. It is interesting that thousands of Jews were saved by being hidden in Catholic monasteries around Europe.
When Rommel the Desert Fox went through North Africa and went to Morocco. Yeah, so I'm not claiming to be like an expert.
You're not an expert.
No.
You're not an expert.
When Rommel was in North Africa and he went through Algeria, went to the Kingdom of Morocco, Rommel was like, okay, yeah, give us your Jews. And then the King of Morocco was like, what Jews? There are no Jews here, only Moroccans. And there are actually a lot of Jews in Morocco, obviously.
I'm not denying that there were good Muslims.
I'm
not denying that there were good Muslims. But the point that this brother was making, because you weren't listening, the point that this brother was making, he was trying to criminalize Christians because of World War I and World War II, whilst ignoring the nuances and the complexities of the issue. You can't generally stroke a complicated issue like World War I and World War II. I'm not denying that there were good Muslims. I am pointing out that Albanian Muslims sided with the Nazis and had a special division in the Waffen SS, and that the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was a personal friend of Adolf Hitler. Whereas the Pope of the time condemned the influence of National Socialism on the practices of the Church.
So, I think if, we're living in a proper Christian country under Christian laws...
We don't.
Yeah, I know, but let's say we were. Would people be allowed to criticize Christianity and, leave and, practice non-Christian acts? Or is that Christian haram?
There's no injunction.
Will there be freedom in your...
There is no injunction within the Christian faith calling for the punishment of those who criticize the Christian faith.
Hold on a minute.
No, don't tell him to be quiet. You're not the dictator here. I'm talking to you, bro. So there's no injunction within the Christian faith. Notice the supremacist is telling you to shut up in the park. So in terms of the Christian faith, there is no injunction within the New Testament calling for Christians to punish one another, except that they be excluded from the church. That is the only punishment that is prescribed in the New Testament. Now, Christians in the past, from the 11th century to the 1700s, due to civil authorities, did practice capital punishment for heresy and apostasy. However, before the 11th century and after the 1700s, Christians were arguing against such practices.
I mean, while they was arguing, didn't Queen Elizabeth, I think burnt Catholics alive?
Yes, I know. What period was that, bro?
I know, it was before the 11th century.
Was that between the 11th century and the 1700s? There you go. So I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But show me. But the difference is, this is why my criticism of Islam is legitimate. Because in Islam, apostasy laws are commanded by Mohammed.
Yes.
They can never be changed.
Yes.
Which means that whether I live in the 7th century, the 10th century, the 14th century, the 17th century, or the 21st century, The punishment for leaving Islam is what?
Death.
Execution.
Well, I mean, it was cool talking to you, man.
So, what's the punishment? Come on.
Why Richard the Lionheart went to
Why did Richard the Lionheart went to Jerusalem? Because Christians were fighting to liberate Christian land from Muslim occupation.
So where is the document that it's a Christian land?
There's no historian, brother. So, the kind of nonsensical argument made by my Muslim colleague here is that there's no document calling Palestine and Syria and Egypt Christian land. They were Christian majority countries when Muslims invaded them.
Who made them Christian? The Roman
And
Empire.
Christians and
The Roman
Christians
Empire
in the
invaded
Crusades
Christian
were
Empire.
fighting to liberate Christian land from Muslim occupation.
Actually, Christianity spread in the Middle East by the sword, by the
No.
Roman Empire,
Not true.
which was made by Constantine in Constantinople.
When did Christianity start?
And thank God we have cleansed now
When did
Constantinople and
Christianity
all of Turkey
start?
From your dirt.
When did cleansed, he says. Cleansed, he says. This is the supremacist narrative that exists in too much of the Muslim community. There are too many Muslims who buy into a narrative of supremacism and bigotry against Christians, and we don't call it out because of political correctness and a weak liberal progressive ideology. He said cleansed Constantinople when they invaded Constantinople in 1453 and butchered so many Christians that the Bosphorus Straits ran red with Christian blood. Now he said Christianity was spread by Constantine by the sword.
He said that.
That is a lie. I suggest that he reads the works of Dr. Bart Ehrman, who talked about how Christianity became a world religion.
How did
Christianity, by the time of the conversion of Saint Constantine, had become 50% of the Roman Empire, and that was not with the use. I'm answering your question.
Just answer that question.
I am answering your first question.
Forget
Have
about the
some
first
manners.
question,
No.
go to the last question.
Now he wants me to forget about the
Because
first
this
question.
will show you
Why
the
does he
lies.
want me to forget about the first question? Because
Just
it
answer
will
this
show
question. Just answer.
how
Did
ignorant
the Roman
he
Empire
is. And he is an
invade
ignorant
England or
man.
not?
He is an ignorant man.
Answering the question.
I'm answering your first
Just
question.
answer this question.
No, I will answer
I don't
your
have time for it.
first question and then I will answer your
Be
second
quick
question.
then. Don't take your time.
I'll take my time
No, just be
because
quick.
I am not your dhimmi and you are not the
I'm not
caliph.
asking you to be my
I
dhimmi,
don't
I'm just
pay you a
asking
jizya
to have
tax,
to have
and
a-
I never will. And I never will. The
You're a
day
funny
they
guy.
bring out the
Listen.
jizya tax in the UK, I will go to court for murder because I will kill the tax collector. I'll die before I pay the jizya.
I didn't ask if I don't need your money.
So-
Keep it to yourself.
So,
Just answer me one question.
back to the
Did
Christian
the Roman
Empire.
invade England or not?
Right, I'm going to show just how
It's a
stupid
very
this man
simple
is.
question. Okay, yalla.
The Roman Empire invaded England at the time of Julius Caesar. That was 300 years before Constantine, you clown.
So they weren't Christians?
They were not Christians,
Okay.
they were pagans.
When did they turn
This
Christians?
is what
When did they turn
happens
Christians?
when
Go to the
someone
Roman
gets
baths
their
in Bath.
knowledge
Go
of
to the
history
Roman baths in Bath.
and about
And look at the
Christianity
religious
from the likes of
It ain't
Zacchaeus Knight.
Aquasulis.
Who's that?
It's
Who's that?
Aquasulis.
You
The
don't
god
know
of
anything
water
about the
in
history of
Bath.
these lands, bro.
You're an ignorant
You're a
man.
moron. You don't know
Go to
anything
the
about the
Roman
Christian
baths
You think
in
you're
lands.
smart?
Bath and
think
look
you're
at the
smart?
symbols of Aquasulis.
Well, you're
Constantine.
stupid in reality.
It wasn't
Constantine.
symbols of Christ, it was
a
symbols
Mongol
of
in reality.
Aquasulis in the Roman baths
Even-
of Bath.
Do me a favor.
About
Steve knows
100
more than
miles
you.
to the
I
west.
know
Get a
more than
train
you.
there.
You don't know anything, bro.
nothing about this.
Julius Caesar invaded England in what year?
I don't care. Fucking invaded
What
England.
year?
Swearing
Sword.
now.
It's not
What
by the
year?
sword.
Swearing
I
when
don't
you lose
care.
it.
What year?
All I know that
What year?
I don't know
What
what
year?
I don't care what
What
year. It
year?
doesn't matter.
What year?
Why doesn't it matter?
It does matter
Your
because he
argument
made
is based
the
on
argument
Because your
that the
argument is based
Roman
on
Christians
England.
invaded England.
Google Aquasus.
But the
I don't
fact
care
is
about
Julius
this. You don't care about
Caesar
facts, because you're
invaded
talking
England
bullshit. The reality
before
of-
Christianity started.
You got caught there.
That's how idiotic this man is.
You're talking nonsense. You're swearing it. when you-
But
when you
let's
start
look at
to-
all the lands that Muslims
quiet.
invaded.
This is
Egypt,
Speaker's Corner. We have
Syria,
free speech in this country.
Palestine,
We don't
have free
Armenia,
speech.
Georgia,
Tell people to be
Turkey, Morocco,
ignore it.
Tunisia,
quiet.
Libya,
Aquasus.
Spain,
Just Google
Portugal,
Aquasus.
Sicily,
Aquasus.
Italy,
Not Christ, Aquasus.
Hungary,
The God of
Romania,
war, the Roman
Slovakia,
the city of
Czech,
Don't have a look at it.
Albania,
Google.
Macedonia,
They weren't Christian.
Pakistan, Afghanistan, India,
Nothing to do with Christianity.
the Persia.
Christianity.
All
When the
of
Romans
these
came
lands
there.
were
As
invaded by
evidenced in the city
Muslims,
of Bath,
and
the
most
Roman
of
bath,
them were
and the
invaded
symbolism
before
of
the
Ephesus.
First
Was
Crusade.
Hitler a Christian?
Learn your history, Christians,
Graham.
and learn
Why are
to
you
tell
asking
your own
irrelevant
history.
Hitler was a Christian.
Because
He killed
if you
many
don't
people.
tell
to
your
the
own
Romans.
history,
desperate.
your
You're
enemies
desperate.
will tell your history for you. And that is why it is important that you know your history. It's why it's important that you know your own history so that people like this cannot villainize the Christian faith
Go to the Fox News.
based upon their ignorance of
Where
history.
your education from?
You're not used to free speech, are you?
He's not. He's clearly not used to free speech.
You're not used to freedom
He's
of thought, freedom
agitated
of
by
religion.
free speech.
I'm
He's
just
irritated
agitated
by
the-
free
By the
speech.
attacks, by the constant attacks by you and him. That's why I'm agitated.
Are you agitated?
Because of the constant attacks.
Are you
Attacks?
agitated?
Are these attacks?
Are you
There are
agitated?
two policemen. Go and tell us.
Yeah, go and tell the
them we're
policeman.
attacking you.
Go
We're
make a
attacking
report
you.
for
Go
hate
tell the police
speech.
officers.
Go on, they're right there. They're right there. So not really attacks then, are you? More like accurate criticisms of a dunce that doesn't know history.
Well done, you know history.
Yeah, I do. You don't. So stop talking crap about my religion. So,
Crap about your religion.
yeah, crap
Religion is
about my
crap, man.
religion.
That you said it
Crap
yourself.
about my
It's
religion.
crap.
Did I say something that was crap about your religion? Which bit?
You don't even know my religion. You didn't even ask me. You just assumed that I'm a Muslim.
I am assuming that, yes. Am I wrong?
I can't tell you what religion.
I can't tell you. That's, by the way, called in the corner by a Muslim for I'm a Muslim, but I got caught out
You're
lying.
embarrassed of your religion.
Are you embarrassed by your religion?
Not
Are you ashamed of your religion?
What is your religion now?
Well, I'm a
Forget
Christian.
about
What's
my
your religion?
What's
your religion?
Christian what?
What is your
Protestant,
religion?
Lutheran,
What is your
Seventh
religion?
Adventist?
What
No,
is
no,
your
no, no.
religion?
You have to say what's your religion
What
first.
is your religion? I just did Christian. What's
Christian
yours?
what? Christian what?
Christian what? What's yours?
Christian what?
Christian what? Do you notice how he doesn't want to answer a
Just
question?
answer the question
No,
first.
no,
and
no.
I'll tell
You
what
answer the question. I'm not your dhimmi. I'm not paying you a jizya, and you're not the caliph.
Okay, you said you're Christian?
So, what kind of Muslim are you?
What kind of Muslim am I?
Yes.
How many kinds are there?
Are you a Muslim?
What do you know about Islam?
I know lots. I know enough about
What do you know about
Islam.
Shia-Sunni differences?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the Shia-Sunni differences.
Forget about the Sunni. Let's talk about the Shia.
Let's talk about the Shia-Sunni
What,
differences.
tell me what you know about the Shia.
No, 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 no,
I
no.
will touch correct
No,
you.
no, 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 no. Ah, so he's a Shia Muslim. There we go.
Okay, well done, well done.
There we
Tell
go.
me now what
At
you-
last. You have to force it out of him, but he gets there eventually.
What's your belief now? What's your what do you call
About
it?
Shia Islam.
No, about Shia, about Christian. What?
Oh, now he wants to change the topic. Okay.
We will go back.
Guys,
Just
guys,
answer. Just
he keeps
because-
trying to change the
because
topic.
I told you
Every
mine.
minute
You
he's
have to
changing
tell
the
yours
question.
now. You have to tell yours.
So, as a Shia Muslim,
You have to be fair.
as a Shia Muslim, do you agree
As a Christian, what?
with
As a
Iran's
Christian, what are you?
practice of killing those who leave the religion of Islam?
No, I don't agree with the killing of Muslims.
You don't agree with killing apostates?
Freedom in religion, I believe in.
Then I'll shake your hand. Well done.
Because there is an
He's a
ayah.
good man. He's better than his prophet. He's better than his prophet. He's better than Mohammad.
There is an ayah in the Quran that says, "La ikraha fi din." Like, they mean no hater, no compulsion in religion.
Okay.
So that's what I believe in personally.
Yeah.
That there should be no compulsion.
Do you believe in the use of hadiths?
No, I don't believe in the Sunni hadith. I think they have so much lies in them.
And tell me, why do you think that the Sunni Hadiths have lies in them?
Because they have been by the winners of in the history. Bani Umayyah, they have won the war,
Yeah.
and they have written the history. Because we all know the history written by the winners.
Yep.
That's my personal belief that they have defeated the Alawites, and then they have rewritten the history.
Are you an Alawite?
Alawite. What does Alawite mean to you?
It's a Shia group.
Shia, yeah.
Within, are you an Alawite?
Shia.
You're a Shia.
Shia.
Okay, so we got there. So you're a part of the party of Ali.
No, I'm not. I don't have any political affiliation. I just have like a system of belief.
What does Shia mean?
The 12 Imam system of belief.
Yeah, the 12 Imam system of belief.
Correct.
Yeah.
I believe in the 12 Imam.
Yeah, that it
and,
passes through the family
Not
of the
passes
Prophet
through.
Muhammad.
It just passes to especially 12 person who will pass through.
Yeah.
And the last Imam, he's the one waiting for. He's a Messiah.
Yes,
Waiting for.
I know that.
He's
yeah.
the Imam al-Mahdi al-Qa'im.
Yeah.
And do you know about this? Have you heard about this before?
I know it in its generality. I don't know in its specifics.
I don't have any political affiliation.
That's fine.
Because I'm living as a guest in the UK. So mainly I'm just practicing my religious.
So in 12
in a gentle way,
Shiism,
that's
just
it,
to be
yeah.
clear,
Yeah.
in 12 Shiism, are you saying on camera, because people are going to Google it straight away, are you saying that there's no laws of apostasy?
Laws of apostasy.
Yes.
No, we don't have a state, so there's no law of apostasy.
But if you had a state, would there be a law of apostasy?
There will be a law, yeah. There will be three options you'll get. When the Imam Mahdi comes back, the
Yes.
12 Imam, he will give you 3 options. Either you accept him as an Imam,
Yeah.
or you pay the jizya,
Yeah.
or the sword.
Right.
One of the 3.
Okay.
If you don't take him as an Imam, Imam Mahdi when he comes.
Yeah.
That's not up to me.
But you think that
I don't know when he's gonna come.
But you think that only will happen when the Mahdi comes?
Exactly, and Jesus will pray behind him.
Do you believe that 12 Shias have the right to set up a state before the Mahdi?
They sort of a state.
Before the Mahdi?
They can try, but it will be very difficult.
And if they succeed, can they? Would you argue in that situation for the implementation of apostasy laws?
The application of apostasy law is forbidden for us to do them now, because it's only lawful for us to do apostasy law when the Mahdi comes.
Okay.
And Isa will pray behind him. If that happens, then he's the one who will set it up. I don't do that thing.
Yeah.
I can just convey the message to you, because I really.
I have a question. You believe that your religion goes back to Mohammed?
I believe my religion goes back to Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the Sunnis believe that their religion goes back to Mohammed.
Correct.
Yeah. But when you practice Salat, for instance, your Salat is different to the Sunni Salat, is it not? Okay.
We pray like this.
Yeah.
And they pray like this.
And what are the differences are there?
The differences
you do the
are
Salat?
there is quite a lot of differences.
Yeah,
because
please do.
when we believe that the last thing to say the Salat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, pray to Muhammad and al Muhammad. We believe in al Muhammad. They say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The main difference as well is the tawalli wa tabarri, loyalty, and this is loyalty. You have to have the loyalty to the friends of Imam Ali, the Emir al-Mu'minin. You believe he's the commander of the believers. Ali.
Yep.
His name is Patrice.
And and the Sunnis don't believe this.
The Sunnis, they believe in they have the loyalty to the enemy of Ali.
Right. Okay. So I want to focus in on the practical differences, not the doctrinal differences, and the reason for that I'll come on to. So you one of the ways that you pray Salat differently. What are the other ways that your Salat is different from the Sunni Salat?
Yeah, the Salah is different in a way that there is a lot of similarities. There is some differences. Okay, the differences is that I can name a few, but that one way they pray like that. We pray like Shia pray like this.
Yeah.
The Sunni pray like this.
Yeah.
Other way is that after we finish prayer, we do the ta'qib, dua, supplications.
Yeah.
It's completely different than the Sunnis.
What do they do?
Because the Shia-Sunnis, they curse the enemies of Imam Ali
Yep.
and Hussein.
Yeah.
They have a lot of, they curse on Bani Umayyah.
This is the Sunnis or the Shia?
It's the Shia.
This is what the Shia do. They curse the enemies of Ali.
Curse the enemies of Ali. Yeah.
And the
After
Sunnis,
Salat.
what do they do?
They curse as well Ali after Salat.
They curse.
But
they,
now it's
they
not
curse Ali.
Yeah, before. it
Sunnis
happened,
believe-
But they don't do it anymore now.
Right. So what do they do now that's different from what you do?
Now that the difference in what we do, that they are loyal to our enemies,
Yeah.
and we are
No,
loyal
in terms of their practice of Salat,
practice of Salat.
Is it just the hand gesture?
To be honest, it's the four pillars are pretty much the same between the Sunni and the Shia because the differences are very little.
It's those little differences that I want to home in on. Because the Sunni have one way of doing Salat. What other differences are there about Salat? Like the rock, for instance.
The rock, exactly. Thank you for reminding me, actually.
Yeah.
The rock, the Shia, they pray on the rock. They believe the rock is from the turba. Turba means the soil of Karbala, or the sand of Karbala. We believe when we pray on it, when we prostrate our head here, the five things will be removed from you. Such as, I have a hadith about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've saved it.
It's okay, you don't need to prove it. I'm just, for the moment, going to take you on your word.
I can give you the definition, because this question you asked...
So they use the rock, that is one of the...
There is an answer for it.
Do you do wudu differently?
The wudu we do, it's
is it
pretty much the same.
It's pretty much the same.
The face, the arm, the head.
Ritual washing.
Right.
Yeah. But is it the same as the Sunnis? Do you do it in the same way or do you do it differently?
It's the same.
So it goes up to the elbows, using the little finger, cleaning inside the nose and the ears.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Except the fifth pillar, because the difference between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam.
Sunnis also pray like
Sunni
that.
Islam have 4 pillars. Shia Islam have 5 pillars. But they have the similarity between them, which is the 4 pillars, which is the fasting, siyam, and the salat, and the zakat, and the hajj. This is the 4 pillars that the Sunni and the Shia together agree on. Except some differences in the salat.
So what's the fifth pillar, shahada?
The fifth pillar, no. The Sunni, they say is the shahada.
Okay.
The Shia, they say is the wilaya. The wilaya means the loyalty.
Where you put the hands,
They put the loyalty as number 1 pillar in Shia Islam. The loyalty should be to the 12 imams, starting from Amir al-Mu'min Ali ibn Abi Talib, going all the way down to Al-Ta'im. It is the loyalty to them and the bara'a min a'da, and the declare of innocence from their enemies.
So coming to the Salat, coming to the differences in Salat, you claim that the way that you pray was taught by Prophet Muhammad.
Passed on.
Yeah, and the Sunnis claim that the way that they pray was taught by the Prophet Muhammad.
Correct.
So what evidence can you provide to me that the way that the Sunnis do Salat is not following what Muhammad taught?
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because after the Muhammad got killed, Muhammad died, he got killed.
Yeah.
And after that he had put a wasiyah, he had put a message that Ali should be the guy who will lead the ummah, or lead the nation after him, who is the correct person. However, this nation didn't agree with that.
No, I'm asking about Salat.
The Salat. You're asking me about the Salat.
I'm going to try one more time. You have a way of praying Salat that you say goes back to Muhammad. The Sunnis have a way of praying Salat that goes back to Muhammad.
The answer is
What evidence do you have that the way you pray Salat goes back to Muhammad?
Yeah, I have evidence.
Right, that's what I'm
Because
asking.
we believe that the 12 Imam, they are the right messengers of Muhammad. We believe that because the Sunnis, they were under the Umayyad Caliphate. I don't know, because most of the Sunni territory was spread by the sword, by the Sunni Caliphate, and they have spread Quran and the prayer as well when they were taking the territory.
So what you're saying?
So they have spread the Sunni way.
This is not evidence. This is
evidence.
a claim. And what is the evidence that your Salat goes back to Muhammad and not the Sunni Salat? Because here's my problem. This is one of the reasons why I think all Islam is invented, whether it's Shia or Sunni.
You have to make your question clear, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to make, my question is super clear.
You said what's the difference between Sunni Salat and Shia Salat?
My question is super clear. Everyone will understand it. But it seems to me that the fact that the Sunnis and the Shia pray Salat differently is evidence that neither form of Islam actually goes all the way back to Muhammad. That at some later point, maybe within 100 years, maybe 150 years, one or both versions of Islam invented their practices post hoc. That the practice of Salat, if it really originated so concretely in the historical community, it would be identical in both groups.
But it was never in the same concrete. there was always a difference between the factions. There was always a factions between the Middle East. So the Salat, people weren't praying together. Some people were praying alone. Some people were praying different mosques, like we have in our London. We have a mosque, 99 Sunni mosque maybe, and 1% Shia. That's how it's always been. The Salat
So
is
my
like
question to you,
Yeah.
what is the evidence that you can provide to me that the Shia way of doing Salat is the one that goes back to Mohammed, and not the Sunni way of doing Salat is the one that goes back to
by
Mohammed?
experiencing it yourself, by
That doesn't-
experiencing
that's
the
not
Sunni
proof.
one and experiencing the Shia
These
one.
are- these are
and you're gonna
esoteric.
see the mercy, how it gets when you pray the Shia Salat. You see
This
the
is,
mercy.
this is
power.
not evidence that
That's
you're-
the only
you're-
evidence I can provide for you. If you
Then-
want to
then
try,
you have no evidence.
you are welcome to try it, because you have to
Then,
try
then
it
you have
first.
no evidence. You have no evidence.
I have the evidence, but you don't want to try. You have a phobia, of course.
This is
Try.
not evidence.
Come with me to the mosque and pray the Shia way and see how you feel. You pray only to Yahweh.
This
Believe
is
in Yahweh.
yeah. We worship Yahweh. That's
Yahweh. That's the Allahu la ilaha illa huwa.
no.
his name
That's
in the
this
Quran.
kind of false linguistic friend.
It's not false.
It's
because
another silly Zakir Naik argument.
it's not Zakir Naik.
It
I
is.
never read Zakir Naik.
It is.
All I've read is from the. Have you read the Shia book? Have you
Akbar,
read Behaviour?
Akbar in Hebrew means mouse.
Akbar.
Akbar means mouse. Does that mean that every time Muslims say Akbar in Arabic that they're saying mouse?
I have no idea about that.
It's a false
Hebrew is not-
linguistic friend. You can't say that because one word sounds like another word in another language. that they mean
Arabic
the
is a
same thing.
stronger language than Hebrew. Everybody knows it.
I don't think everybody knows that. I'm sure plenty of Jews would disagree with that. This kind of, there's a lot of false logic that you're using.
Like what?
You're appealing to esoteric evidence to claim that your form of Salat goes back to Muhammad. That doesn't prove anything. You're using false linguistic friends. The fact that words might sound similar doesn't mean that they mean the same. The fact that you've made lots of very spurious claims about the Christian faith.
Some claim are
A
truth.
historical
A lot of
claim.
claim are truth about the Christian faith, because when George Bush invaded Iraq, he said, "This is the crusade." So it was very insulting to the Muslim population that lives there, because they see that they see the American as people who come to liberate their country. But when you say it's a crusade, you see the feelings are like we have been betrayed. You understand?
That's completely irrelevant to the Christian faith.
That's very relevant, because you are mentioning the global when you talk
The
about Islam, you're
language of
mentioning global
crusade.
phenomena, okay?
I'm on crusade now.
We mention,
I'm on crusade now. The language of crusade in
crusade is
the
very
Western
insulting, to the
lexicon.
Muslim, because
I don't
crusade
care if
have
it's insulting to
committed a lot
Muslims.
of
I
autocrats
honestly
in the
don't
Muslim.
care. I honestly, and I want to put it on
Tell
record.
the people, don't tell it to
I
me.
don't
I
care
don't care
if
either.
Muslims
I'm
are
just-
insulted by
I'm
the
just
word
conveying a message, I don't
crusade.
care.
I'm insulted by the word jihad. So when you guys stop saying jihad, I'll stop saying crusade. But in the Western lexicon, crusade means crusade is used for any noble struggle. There was a crusade against alcohol in the West. When the abolitionists in America in the 1920s were campaigning for the abolition of the use of alcohol and to make it illegal to use alcohol across the whole of the United States, they called it a crusade. The Methodists in the 1800s,
just like jihad, the word jihad.
in the 1800s, the Methodists launched the Pledge Crusade, which was to get men to pledge that they wouldn't touch the vile drink, alcohol. And they called it a crusade. A crusade in the Western lexicon now simply means any noble cause.
But you are aware that
Comes from the word
the cross
crux.
is related to a lot of terror.
The word crusade comes
The
from
world,
crux.
the cross.
Terror has been.
No offence,
has
but
been-
you have
has been
established
used as a
yourself
shield.
as not much of a legitimacy to anything, to be fair. Not much of an authority on
I'm
anything.
bringing facts that in the World War I, World War II, a lot of innocent people died. You know.
Well, do you think as a European that I don't know that a lot of people died in World War I and
We know
World War
that
II?
who started
Brother,
the war, they were,
we actually
Christian
have a
countries.
day. You are such an ignorant man. We actually have
They
a
were
day.
Christian countries who started
We
the war.
actually have a
Imagine the
day
Muslims started World War
that
III.
commemorates the deaths of World War I and World War II.
So like you.
Like the idea that I don't know that.
Yes.
Did you
Yes.
honestly think you were telling me something I didn't know just then?
Yes.
No, I'm just reminding you. Maybe you forgot.
No, bro. No one born in the West
campaign.
forgets that.
You
You don't forget that. So anyway, brother,
Anyways, I don't want to go to
I
this.
think-
Let's talk about the faith. What's your faith?
I'm a Christian.
Christian what? Because we have Protestant, we have Lutheran, we have Seven Adventist, We
Yeah.
have Jehovah Witnesses. You have to open your chest more. Don't be
so
a con man.
A Christian is someone who is a disciple of Christ. They follow Christ. That is the only thing that a Christian is. All of these denominations that you've talked about, none of them originate in Scripture. None of them are prescribed in Scripture.
So I
they're
believe
all
in
the
Christian
inventions. They're all the inventions of men. There is one body of Christ, one Christian community, and it is made up of the groups that you have just aforementioned. But those aforementioned groups do not in themselves represent the totality of the Christian faith.
So you didn't answer my question.
I
What
did.
is your sect? What
I
sect
don't
you
have a
read?
sect, I am just a Christian.
What book you reading about Christianity? How did you get educated?
I read the
about,
Bible.
Christianity? The Bible. What version of the Bible is it?
This current one is the NASB, but I also have a New Jerusalem translation, a King James translation,
Do you use the,
and an
do you use the
ESV.
Orthodox or the Catholic scripture?
In terms of the canon, are you referring to canon?
As
Why-
a layman, in terms of their Bibles, they claim to be.
Are you more?
I'm happy to use either.
So the books you're reading is it made in the UK or what country is like the?
Is
I
it
think the
2020 or
NASB was printed in
2019?
America.
It printed in America.
so,
So
yeah.
it's
No,
maybe the
2019,
dominant religion in
2020.
So you think that the Bible, because I'm reading one that was printed in America, it was made in America? Is that what you think?
America. Not like that. I'm thinking that maybe the
I
scholars,
just don't get the point you're
scholars
trying to
are in
make.
America, right?
What?
That scholars that put the book together.
No, it's an
or
international.
translated to the
No,
English.
the translation of the NASB was a collection of international scholars from
revised.
around the world.
2020 model?
You what?
2020
in the
version?
80s, wasn't it? Or 70s?
I'm sorry?
Is it a 2020 version or
What's the
2019?
2020 version?
Or 2019 version?
It was printed before any of those.
Is
But
it
what point
18?
do you think you're making?
That you change it every year or
go-
is it say one
You,
thing?
you think it's changed every year?
I'm asking you.
Explain to me
Right,
about.
so allow me to explain, because a lot of
I just want to ask one question because it's very important.
Okay,
now.
you're
And
going
I
to
was
ask one
talking to
question
people
and then
in the
going to deal with this guy, because no offense, you've asked a lot
How
of
many
questions.
pillars do you have in your faith, in your
Right.
Christianity? What's the main
Okay,
pillars?
I'll just let my friend change his battery, and then I'm going to address both of your points. The whole Bible question, the
I can address
translations,
as well
the
question
canons.
about my faith if
Yeah.
you ask me as
Yeah,
well.
but I'll address your
I wanted to
question
ask
and your
the
question
Shia as
together.
well.
About the Salat question, what was the answer for that?
He really didn't give any
You
evidence.
said there was
I
a
gave you
difference
evidence.
between Shia and Sunnis.
Yeah.
The Salat differences.
Yeah.
What was the answer? Is there any
No
answer for that?
difference.
Well, he didn't. I asked him for evidence that his form of Salat goes back to Muhammad, and he didn't provide any evidence.
There's not much difference, to be honest with you. It's,
There is a
there's
difference, though.
The
and
main
that's
difference
important.
is in
There's no
the
difference at
wilayah,
all.
the difference between the Sunni and Shia.
Th-
It's in
th-
the
th- those
loyalty.
slight differences. If you pray Salat in the
It's a
Shia,
postural
I'm going to make a grand assumption here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing you're a Sunni. What? Sorry. Okay, so when you pray, do you pray with your hands like this or like this?
I pray with my hands open.
Hands like this.
Open.
Open. So you pray with your hands down here. So you're Shia.
No.
Sunnis open with their hands as well.
Sunnis also pray like this.
Well, I think.
Maliki school open with their hands as well.
Right. Okay. Fine.
Yeah,
I've just
yeah.
learned something new there.
Yeah.
Do you pray with a little rock?
Some people do, some people don't.
Yeah. Some Shia do and
Yeah,
some
yeah,
Sunnis don't.
yeah.
So there are differences,
No,
isn't
some
there?
Shias also
Yeah,
don't.
slight differences.
Slight differences.
You
know
Yeah.
what?
But the main difference
Do
is
you know
the-
why
These are
some
postural
people-
differences.
However, let me come
This
back.
is a postural
Do you know why
difference.
Let-
some
let-
people
let
are
me-
different?
let me-
Do
let
you know
me-
why they pray on the rock?
No, he explained it as he believes it's something to do with the way that
Spiritual, it's
spiritual,
cleansing.
the
It's
cleansing.
Well,
of
basically what it is basically back in the Prophet's time, people used to prostrate on the earth, and the rock itself is
the
actually
earth.
made out of clay.
Element
Yeah.
of earth.
And basically, it's just
Just to
like a
denote that.
made out of clay. People prostrate on that to get closer to God.
So
Because
which-
back in
Closer
the
to
old
Allah,
days,
not God.
if we go back to the Prophet's day, people used to pray on the directly on,
Who's God?
on the soil. On the soil.
That's fine.
And even there's hadiths in the Sunni literature that show that people, the companions, used to pray on mud.
So should you use a rock or not?
I
can
believe
if you want
I
to,
believe
if you
everybody
don't
should use a
have-
rock.
Should you use a
believe-
clay rock or not when you pray
No,
Salat?
it doesn't
If
matter.
they want to use it or not.
You think it's down to individual choice?
Well, it's down to individual choice, the way they have been taught by their own school of thought.
So it's not a prescribed thing. Muhammad didn't prescribe a way to pray Salat.
No, he has prescribed
Yeah,
it,
some
but
basics, yes.
What I'm trying to say is, obviously,
So
some-
he
if one-
hold on. No,
one
this
school
is
of
really
thought-
important. So he prescribed the basics, but then there were some later developments that you have individual choice over.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
It's not development. It's just
No, it is
if
a
you are-
development.
no, listen.
It is a development.
You are talking about the postural differences of Salah.
Yes,
It's not
that's
about
fine.
only posture. It's the connection with the God. It's the main.
Yeah, he touched on
remembrance-
the theological differences.
Remembrance to God, that you are always answerable to God.
My
to
question
Allah.
is...
It doesn't matter
No, it
if
really
you're
does.
praying with your hands.
It really does. Because,
For you.
Because, no,
Not
it
for
does
us.
for you.
wanna speak
One
statics-
second, one second,
Let me
one
answer the
second.
question,
No,
because you
no,
cannot
this
find
is...
an
No,
answer.
one second,
I'll have an
one
answer for
second,
you.
one second.
What's the question? Where are you
So-
leading
so-
the question?
so my
How?
point
What
is-
are you trying to point out?
Wait.
So-
Talking about
What are you
bid'ah.
trying to
Related
emphasize?
development.
There you go. This guy's on it.
He's trying to
You know
say
exactly where I'm
the way
going.
you pray, there's an element of bid'ah in your salah.
Thank you.
So you're trying to say
You've just
that
evidenced the
develop
bid'ah.
something, right?
You've just evidenced the bid'ah in your religion. Because what you essentially
What is
argued...
bid'ah? You know what is
What
bid'ah?
you
What is
essentially
bid'ah? You know what is
argued...
bid'ah? You know
Innovation.
the- no, no,
Innovation.
no, it's not
Doing
innovation.
something that Muhammad didn't do.
No.
No offense, but
no offense. I'm telling
if you want to
the-
correct me, bring out some evidence.
Yeah, I will tell you. I will tell you.
No, I'm going to... I'm going to
Listen, what is
finish my
bid'ah?
point. I'm going to finish my point. I'm going to... Let me finish my point. Let me go and finish my point. The fact of the matter is, you guys together just argued that Muhammad gave some basics of Salat, and that these things like using the prayer stone or the mat is something that you have an individual choice over. But if that means that you are having an individual choice over it, that means it's not something that Muhammad prescribed. It's
brother.
something that you later innovated.
Brother.
And if you innovated, it's not what Muhammad gave you.
No. I think you're.
So
No,
correct me
brother.
where my logic is wrong.
Brother,
Correct me where my logic is
First
wrong.
of all,
The same thing
your
you said that-
definition of bid'ah is not right. Your
Tell me what the
understanding of
correct.
bid'ah.
Tell me what the correct definition
Bid'ah
is.
is
And then
something
show me
which
your
you do-
sources.
The sources I don't have it right now, but I know it authentically. If you want, I can provide.
So
you
it's just
that.
your opinion against
So-
my opinion. But go on, I'll
No.
listen to your opinion. Go on.
Yeah, we are here for our opinion.
Yes, I'm listening to your opinion.
Yeah, please. Bid'ah is something which you do with the feeling, with the concept that it is the only thing which is preferred in the eyes of God. That is something which is bid'ah. If I'm using this phone, which Muhammad did not use it, it's not bid'ah. Understand? So if I'm saying salah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said something which are basics and which are something which are not basics, I'm doing it, it's not bid'ah.
Okay, the definition that I have read of bid'ah is that it is doing something that is not sunnah. It is doing
No,
something that
that's
Muhammad
wrong.
didn't give you a
That's wrong.
prescription
For
to do,
example,
or that he didn't do himself, and you have innovated it about the
No,
religion.
wrong.
No, well, that's my
Wrong.
understanding. You'll have to bring evidence if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to correct me. So, in terms of Salat,
What is
Salat,
evidence?
let's be clear. What actually did Muhammad prescribe in terms of Salat?
13,
let me tell you.
How many
Let me
motions?
tell
wanna
you.
know?
Let me
He
tell
answered
you.
it.
How many motions?
Let me tell you.
We still haven't dealt
Let me
with
tell you.
rak'ah for
Qiyam.
Three
Qiyam.
rak'ah.
Standing.
Standing.
One
Wait,
thing.
one, sorry, I've got two people
Prostration.
talking to me. You're just going to have to wait your turn.
Prostration.
Prostration.
Sajda.
Yeah.
See?
Allahu
Yeah, Allahu Akbar.
3.
Your intention that I'm saying salah.
Yep.
You are not just doing an exercise.
Yep.
That is intention.
Yeah.
Ablution.
No, ablutions would do. I'm talking about the actual the act. of
Yeah,
Salat.
there are things which are
Without ablution,
inside,
Agreed.
which are inside, which are apparent,
Yes.
and which are time bound.
Okay.
So it has to be time
So
bound also.
did Muhammad say to pray with your hands like this, or like this?
You know the
don't
best answer to
You
this question
don't know exactly.
is you come
That's
with
my point.
Listen. The best answer to this question.
You don't know. No,
Listen,
it's
listen,
important.
listen.
No,
You
let
come
me,
and
no,
you
no,
experience
no,
it by
no,
yourself.
It's
You
important.
see the salat by
It's
yourself.
important because you're arguing that your religion was perfected by Muhammad.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when you perform Salat, you don't know if one of the postures comes from Muhammad or not.
No.
You come
What
with
is
us,
religion?
Come with me as a guest.
What is religion?
Half an hour. I'll show you how they pray.
Religion
Get
is
an
the
idea.
way of life Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has asked us to follow.
Including
That is-
Salat, right?
Yeah. Including
And
salah.
so,
But if it, but
should you pray like this,
brother,
or should you pray like
brother,
this?
I'm so sorry that you are just trying to prove your point without any substance.
No, there
Your-
is
your,
substance
Your
there.
substance is only one point. That
No,
if
there's
you are
multiple
not
points.
told to hold your hands like this or that, then your religion is not complete. Sorry.
Well, tell
Sorry.
me, is your Salat, is the Salat of the Shia valid?
Absolutely.
Is the Salat of the Sunni valid?
If they have those 4 or 5 basic principles intact, it's valid. If they don't do qiyam is like standing.
Yeah.
It will not be valid. And if they are not, if they are physically unable to.
So hold on a
stand,
second. If you don't stand during Salat,
and if you are physically
able, I accept that there's leniency for people with disabilities. But what you're saying is, if you don't stand when you're able to do Salat, your Salat is invalid. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But yet you're saying that posture is important, but where you place your hands is not important.
That's not for eyes.
Where does Mohammed say that standing invalidates your Salat, but the posture of moving your hands doesn't?
Well, if you are
Or some
asking me,
words to those
if you are
effects.
asking me the clear-cut evidence or clear-cut reference to some book, I don't have it right now.
Okay,
but
fair
that
enough.
is there. If you are really serious, you can get it.
I find it
from the
peculiar.
libraries.
That we have two forms of Salat.
Yeah.
They
Four
are
or five.
different.
Not two. There are 4 or 5.
4 or 5 different forms of Salat amongst the different groups of Muslims.
Yeah.
Give me what other ones? I know about the Shia and the Sunni.
Holding hand like this, holding hands like this, leaving your hand like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are 3 or 4 forms.
3 or 4 forms.
Yeah.
Are there any other differences? There's also the use of the
Any
clay
other difference?
stone.
Clay stone is fine. Why are you just hooked to a clay stone?
Well,
Why
because
are you? If I'm reading on a blue mat or a red mat or a floor or on a carpet, it doesn't make any difference.
the mat is not important to Salat.
What salah is?
The mat is not important to Salat. So why are you raising that? I'm not raising that.
So you said clay. Clay is
The
some
clay
form
stone
of,
is used by certain groups of Muslims.
So what?
They claim
So what?
that they claim
Diversity.
that their Salat, their
Diversity.
way of Salat,
What salah is intended for?
the intention is not in dispute.
Yeah.
What is in
you
dispute
are
is
following
the
that intention,
innovation
that's fine.
and the fact that a perfected
You are
religion
you have
has
very
human innovation.
You have very incomplete knowledge, and you are just trying to use that incomplete knowledge to question the authenticity of salah.
Yes, I am.
Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
I am. Because
That's not-
your salats are different. You don't know which one comes from Muhammad.
Your car is
because
different.
we have one direction.
Your face
When
is
we
different.
prostrate,
Your
it's to one
language is
direction,
different.
It's to Mecca,
So what?
understand? So Sunni or Shia,
what?
when do we pray? We go all the way. We
Brother,
direct ourselves to Mecca.
Pagans
I-
used to worship at Mecca. Does that prove
Say,
nothing?
I'm just answering your question.
I really pray to God that Allah gives you the proper thinking to understand the knowledge, to understand the authenticity.
Should
the
humans innovate? Should humans innovate upon the 5 pillars of Islam?
innovate meaning if you
Meaning
are,
that
if you are
using
ijtihad.
my definition.
No, ijtihad. There is one word, ijtihad, which is because we have 3 sources of rules from where the rules of Islam come.
Yeah.
One is the absolute, which is Quran.
Yep.
Then is Sunnah.
Yep.
And then is ijtihad.
Okay.
Ijtihad is when scholars sit together
Yep.
and they feel that the world has changed, the time has changed, and they have to bring about this change. They sit together and they do ijtihad.
Yep.
So, absolutely, yes.
So in
people
the
can
practice of the 5 pillars,
think,
it is okay to innovate and to do something that Muhammad didn't do, to do it differently from the way Muhammad
not
did
every Tom, Dick and Harry can do it. There's a proper forum and a proper legal system which will allow that change to happen. Not
a proper
me and
legal
you can
system.
do it.
So Islam and the practice of the 5 pillars is being co-created between the scholars and the sources.
Not co-created, I would
Well,
say.
you can't have it both ways. You can't have
No.
that
The
these
word-
councils of scholars
I'm not
are
agreeing
coming
to the
together.
word co-created. For example,
But if
when
you're
we
doing
go for
some,
Hajj,
but if
when we
you're
go
doing
for Hajj,
some, let's talk about Salat.
Yeah.
If you're doing something
Why-
that Muhammad
why
didn't
talk
do,
about
let's
Salah
talk
only?
about
Why?
Salat.
Why?
Let's talk about because that's the example.
Why can't I give you an example of Hajj?
Because we're using the example of Salat.
Yeah.
In terms of Salat,
Yeah.
you're saying that it is acceptable for scholars
Yeah.
to adapt or modulate
Yeah.
Salat according to the circumstances.
Absolutely, yes.
That's absolutely fine.
Absolutely fine.
So when
I can give you an example of that.
So when Muhammad,
I can give you an example
of Salat
that.
being
of
adapted.
Salah,
Yeah, go on.
Because
by the scholars, not by
by
Muhammad.
the scholars, by the scholars, that when this timing dispute comes in Scandinavia or the North Pole,
Yeah.
that how would you do the Salah? Because Salah
Exactly.
is related to the sun.
Yes.
So the scholars came up with some solution. They
Yes.
said, yes, this is the way you will say Salah in North Pole.
Yes.
You will say Salah in South Pole.
Yeah.
So-
So Islam is being invented as it goes
Not
forward
invented,
in time.
sorry, invented is the wrong word. There is
It's been
there is used.
co-created by
You are
Muslim
not
scholars
co-created,
from generation
not invented.
to generation.
No, sorry.
When
they are
when
they,
when
they, they
Muhammad
give you
when,
they
when
give
Allah
you
said,
they give you
was Islam
a proper
perfect
way.
at the time of Muhammad?
Absolutely.
So why did you need to add to it?
We are not adding to
Do
it.
you add something that is perfect?
No. When you were born, you were wearing some clothes which you are unable to wear it now.
Do you-
So it doesn't
Yeah, because
mean
they're not perfect.
Yeah,
Because they're not
No, no,
perfect.
it was
Man-made.
perfect.
Yeah,
It
because
was
they're
perfect.
man-made and not perfect.
No.
Thank you.
Sorry. Listen, you are just using this co-invented. Not you are just trying to prove it without having that proof.
No,
So
but the
you come
evidence
up-
is
you come up
you've
with
given me the evidence. You didn't even
What-
listen
what
to yourself.
evidence?
Because Muhammad gave something that was perfect in the 7th century, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So if it was perfect in the, when you've got a perfect house, do you change it?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
So you change perfection.
Yes.
Can man?
Perfection. What is perfection?
Can man-
Are you
Absolute.
talking about
Can man-
absolute?
Yes.
So
Absolute.
Islam
in
was
what
not
way?
absolutely perfect
It
in the
was
7th century.
My dear brother.
Is that what you're saying?
My dear brother, no, you are putting your words in my mouth. I'm not saying that. You are just trying to capture me with the use of words. Co-invention, reinvention.
I'm not
No,
being
no.
sophist.
No,
I am
my dear,
simply
my dear,
building
my
on
dear.
what you're saying.
Is your purpose of this understanding is that if you come to understand, you will follow it, or you are just arguing for the sake of arguing?
What I'm suggesting to you is that you need to reflect about whether,
Alhamdulillah. I reflect every day 5 times. When I stand for prayer, when I stand for
you
Salah,
need to reflect.
I reflect. I reflect.
You need to reflect
Yeah.
on whether what you believe about Islam is actually true.
Alhamdulillah. Perfect.
That's what you need to
Perfect.
reflect upon.
Perfect.
And that's the point
And
you're
there
making in
is
this argument.
nothing which, because it has been proven, it has been the 1400 or 1500 years time has proven it is the most perfect religion.
Well, no,
the
it
book,
hasn't.
the book is there, and
No,
the
it
book
hasn't.
is it
The
is.
book has been changed. The hadiths
no,
were
no.
invented.
No, sorry.
Salat was adapted. Hajj
Sorry.
was adapted.
No.
It has
The
roots in-
basics- the basics are
the,
not
The
changed.
practice of fasting was adapted.
No, my
The
dear brother.
Height.
the law schools were invented.
Nothing.
These
This
are all
pure.
historically
This is
accurate.
your pure.
These are all historically
This is,
accurate
let me tell you,
statements.
in a very
Every
humble
single
way,
one.
in
Every
a
single one of
very
what I
loving
said.
and humble
Which
way.
one of these statements was wrong?
Every statement was
Every statement. So the law schools were established by Muhammad. They didn't come later.
law schools.
That's one of the things that I said. I said that the law schools were invented later.
So as car or motorcycles or planes.
But you
or
just
buses.
said that I was lying when I said that.
My dear.
So was I telling the truth or telling a lie?
No, I don't know. You are a master.
I was telling
of,
the truth.
You are a master of words.
I was telling the
You are
truth.
a master of words.
Thank you very much.
That's
there
the
you go,
only thing
ladies
you
and
have.
gentlemen. It's
That's-
official.
yeah.
I have been declared the master of words.
But
I'll put
your
that on my
intention,
CV.
Yeah, your intention to understand or your
No, my
intention
intention is to cause you
is
to
not
reflect.
there. It's not
That
there.
is my desire.
Alhamdulillah, I reflect every day 5
Anyway,
times.
go on, bro. You wanted to ask a question.
Bye bye.
Take care. Happy New Year.
And what I understood from your
Sorry,
just one word, just one. I appreciate that I understood that the crusade is like anything which is going against the evil. Which
A crusade
I
is
learned.
any noble cause
Yeah.
against evil. Yeah. So go on.
Thank you.
No, I'm going to stay on camera. You can stay off camera if you like. You can stay off camera if you like.
Hi.
What?
You too. Nice to meet you.
Soko Films. Nice to meet you again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Soko Films. Yeah. Go on.
To go back to basically the stone films. Can we have off camera?
No, I'm going to stay on camera.
Is there any reason?
Yes,
on this side.
because we're recording. You can stay
When the
here.
recording's done, then can we have a little discussion? 5 minutes.
Why don't you want it on camera? Why don't you want it on camera?
I don't want to. No, I don't.
You're not on camera. Only your voice is on camera.
Just 5 minutes off camera.
You are off camera. I am on camera. No one can see your face. What is it you would like to say?
I'd like to take you back to basically you said the developments about
The innovations.
The innovations. But
Yeah.
off camera.
No. Why
You
can't
finished-
you put it on
finished-
record?
Are you still talking to me?
Why don't you want to put it on record?
Cameras.
If you can't have it on camera, then
Five minutes.
no. Why can't you have it
No,
on?
is there a problem of 5 minutes?
Yeah, because I want to hear what you say on record.
Okay, very
I wonder what that question was going to be.
I have no idea. Could you get JC? Please. You alright, bro?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
Good?
You're Christian, aren't you?
I am.
Good. Thanks be to God. Are you having a good Christmas?
You too. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my Christmas is
Into
next
the
week.
7th of January.
Yeah.
Yes. You're going by the Julian calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our calendar. I'm from Ethiopia.
Yeah. Yep. I was just reading about that recently. The Gregorian and the Julian calendar.
Yeah. It's
I think you guys are going to have to accept that the calendar needs to change, you know, because it's connected to the sun. That's why we change the calendar.
and which calendar?
The Gregorian calendar. That's why we changed it in the 1500s.
Our calendar is related directly to the religion, to the Christianity.
It was the Julian calendar we used.
Yeah, I think I don't know which one is Julian, which one is Gregorian. Anyway,
So the Julian calendar is the one you use.
yeah,
That was connected to Julius Caesar.
Julian.
But the festivals, when the festivals were placed on that calendar, that comes from religion. But the timing of the calendar is connected to the Julian calendar, and it's off by 11 minutes.
Okay, finish.
Unless this brother's got any questions?
Yeah, actually, he wants to debate you, I think, but he wants to be off camera.
I want it to be on record.
Okay, but we can play your face.
What about if it don't be on camera at all? Is it
No, but the thing
You don't
is,
have to appear on camera, you could just stand there,
stand there so I can pick up
and
your
then you
voice.
don't appear on camera.
What about if we stand there?
No, you gotta be standing here. So otherwise, I won't
Or
be
you
able to
can
hear
stand
the
there.
voice. No,
Or you-
because I won't be able to catch his voice.
I can repeat what he says. You stand there, say what you want, and I'll repeat it. So, what's gone?
Okay, you know, you want to go back to the discussion which you were talking about, the early developments.
Yeah.
You said which was an innovation. So what's your understanding that Muslims have created innovation according to the Salat of the Prophet Sallallahu
So my understanding.
What was the question?
So the question was, what is my understanding of the innovations that were created by later Muslims to the practice of Salat, established by Mohammed? Fair? Yeah.
These arguments with Shia
So-
also innovated certain things in Islam. Ask
So-
them to prove one innovation.
Okay, can you prove one innovation?
Here's the evidence of the innovation. You have two forms of Islam. Each one of them practices Salat, and they are slightly different from one another. Now, depending on most Muslims, when you speak to most Muslims, they will accept one another's Salat. It seems here in the park, they'll accept one another's Salat. But the obvious question to ask is, which form of that Salat goes back to Muhammad? Which one did Muhammad actually teach? Did he teach that you should put your hands by your sides? Or did he teach that you should fold your hands in front of you? These prostrations are the form of Salat. They are different. Sunnis don't pray like Shia, and Shia don't pray like Sunni for a reason. Now, if it's a case that it's a personal choice, as it kind of was argued by you and this other gentleman collectively, you kind of argued that it was down to a personal choice.
You didn't argue that. No, I didn't say personal choice. I think you misinterpreted.
So explain to me, which one do you think came from Muhammad? To fold your arms across or to leave your arms down by your sides? Which one do you think came from Muhammad?
According to basically where we come, we obviously follow the Sunnah of the Prophet, and we take our teachings from Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it goes back. Our teaching goes back to the Prophet. So we believe obviously the Prophet prayed with his arms open.
His arms open.
With his arms open.
So,
according to our teaching.
According to your teaching, and according to your sources, Muhammad prayed with his arms open wide.
That's what we believe.
Right, so like this, down by the sides. The Sunnis believe that it's folded. What evidence would you to provide to a Sunni that they should leave their arms open like Muhammad did?
You're not answering the objection. The objection was repeat your question. question. You need to prove to him the innovation of the Shia.
No, I asked the brother to show me. I don't know who innovated. I'm not saying the Shia innovated. I'm not saying the Sunni innovated. I'm saying that somebody innovated, and I don't know who. That's what I'm actually saying. I'm saying that someone, post hoc, after Muhammad, modulated the practice of Salat. Because you have two forms of Salat. They both claim to go back to Muhammad, but they're different. And if they're different, it's because somewhere along the line, something got corrupted, either accidentally or deliberately, either by one party or by both parties. So I want to find out who was the one that corrupted the Salat, the Shia or the Sunni. So my question to you is, what is your evidence that the Shia way of doing Salat goes back to Muhammad and not the Sunni way of...
We have sources, they have their sources. Now it's down up to you to decide what is an innovation and what is not. What was innovated after Muhammad and what wasn't. And that's your research. You can ask him. He can go back to his source and say the reason why we pray like this is because what our sources say.
Right. So what we've got now then, or there's Muslim Sunni sources and Shia Sunni sources. So we have two types of sources that are separate from one another, that are different to one another, with some overlap. Is that correct? Right. So, in terms of that overlap, in terms of that difference, yeah? Which of these sources, how do you evidence that your sources, the ones that are different from the Sunni, the ones that contradict the Sunni, go back to Muhammad and not theirs?
This is how, in short, give him the answer, give it to him short. Prophet Muhammad spoke about two weighty things. The Book of God and his Ahlul Bayt family members. So hold on to these two, you won't go astray. Right? So therefore his commandment before his companions, before his other family members, everyone was to follow the Quran and his Ahlul Bayt.
Do you have anything in the Quran that talks about the weightiness of Muhammad's family?
1 minute. We do. But the thing is, this is his command, which itself is weighty. It has come to us from the news of more than 30 companions. Not one witness, 30 witnesses. Because it's strong, so therefore we would rather follow the Ahlul Bayt in their interpretation and understanding of the Quran rather than the companions. So this is evidence, there's nothing more than that.
So your argument is that there are 30 companions that talk about the importance of Muhammad's family. Is that correct?
The Quran and the family.
Right, but here's the problem. As a Christian looking in on this dispute between Sunni and Shia, what I see is the fact that they're both claiming that their sources go back to the companions. The Sunnis claim that their sources go back to the companions, and the Shia claim that their sources go back to the companions.
We've just given you evidence.
Yeah.
With the news of 30 companions, you need to go back.
I am going to address that. I'm going to address that. But the point of the fact of the matter is, Muslims make a big deal about how you can trust their hadiths. They make this big argument, oh, the hadiths are more reliable than the Bible. I am going to finish what I'm saying and then I'm going to address my point. I'm going to finish what I'm saying and then I will address my point.
You think you've got an agenda?
Yeah, I have an agenda. Of course I have an agenda. Of course. Why don't you let me finish what I'm saying? Why don't you let me finish what I'm saying? Why don't you let me finish what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is, Muslims make this big argument that their hadiths are more reliable than our Gospels. But the reality is, as we see by the debates between the Shia and the Sunni, those Muslims themselves can't agree upon the reliability of their hadiths. They're knocking chunks out of one another. The Shia are saying that the Sunni hadiths are unreliable. The Sunnis are saying that the Shia hadiths are unreliable. And the reality is that if they can't agree upon which hadiths are reliable amongst themselves, how can we possibly know? By contrast, Christians do not disagree about the Gospels. Every single Christian, whether they're Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox or Protestant, all agree on Matthew, Mark, Luke and John and the other 27 books of the New Testament. There is universal agreement amongst Christians on the New Testament, but there is no universal agreement between Shia and Sunni about which hadiths you can believe. So when they say, coming back to your point, let me just finish the point, because I wanted to make that point. It's important, because he's claiming that they have 30 companions that say about the importance of the family of Muhammad. Now, I reject that logic. I reject that logic because it is disputed by Sunnis.
That's why you reject it.
I reject it because it's used. I reject it because I reject the Shia logic because it is disputed by Sunnis. Let me finish. However, if you can show me in the Quran that Muhammad emphasized his own family, then I will think that you have weight to your argument.
What's going to happen? Are you going to accept Islam?
No, I'm not going to accept Islam, but I might believe that the Sunnis were the ones that corrupted Islam. Let the sister ask a question.
The discussion started on innovation.
Yeah.
Now it's leading to division. It clearly shows that you've got an agenda here.
Yes, I have an agenda.
You're trying to divide the Muslims. You're not here to learn.
Muslims
You're
are
not a
divided.
sincere
They were
person.
divided
Muslims are
centuries
not
ago.
divided.
It's not got
We
anything
believe
to
in
do
one
with me.
God, we believe in the Prophet and we believe in the Quran. End of discussion.
But you don't just believe in the Prophet, do you?
Yes, we do.
You also, as a Shia, believe in the imanate, the continuation of the prophetic authority. Is that true or not? Do you believe in an imamate?
You're opening up so many different topics. We started on innovation.
So let's talk about innovation.
No, but you have not proven.
The hadiths are innovated. Can you show me in the Quran where Muhammad, can you show me the only text that we can date to Muhammad's time is the Quran. The hadiths came later, hundreds of years later in terms of the Sunni hadiths. The collection Sahih al-Bukhari, do you accept it or not? You accept all of it.
If it goes with the Quran and what the Prophet ﷺ said, we accept it.
So the Shia accept all of, you accept all of the hadiths that come from Aisha.
Yeah, if it goes against the Quran, we don't. If it's with the Quran, we accept it.
Right. So in terms of the Quran, does the Quran...
You're jumping onto hadiths, you're talking about innovation.
I am trying to talk about innovation, but you keep interrupting me. You keep interrupting me. Show me in the Quran where it says that you lay out hadiths. Show me. Show me.
My question.
Clearly here, to basically create division.
Do you have any statement in the Quran validating the use of hadiths? Yours? No, none.
Can I ask you my question?
Go on.
Do you have any references on how the Sabians used to pray? Because the Sabians had prayers. They were in the Mecca area, and they say that it was the Sabians from which Islam took the prayer. So, do you know how the Sabians used to pray?
So, in terms
and that may have
I do not know of any sources talking about Sabian prayer. Have you got any to share? No. But in terms of prostration, in terms of prostration, Christians prostrate in our prayers. Lots of Muslims don't know this. They often come along and they say, oh, well, you know, you Christians, you don't pray like Jesus. And then they talk about Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane when Christ lay prostrate on the floor. And they say, oh, he prays like a Muslim, but you don't pray like that. The fact of the matter is, Christians were using prostration centuries before Muslims. If you go to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Coptic Orthodox Church, or even if you go to the Catholic Church on Easter, on Good Friday, you will see Christians prostrate. You go to any Russian Orthodox Church, Christians prostrate. I go to a church that does prostration in prayer. So the idea that Christians don't use prostration is a ridiculous claim. Lots of religions use prostration. the early pagans in Mecca would prostrate around the Kaaba to their idols. And the Muslims, in imitation of their pagan predecessors, prostrate before a stone rock in the Kaaba. Christian prayer is different from Islamic prayer because it's about praying and worshipping in spirit and in truth. And we use the words of the words that the Lord taught us. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This is not an innovation. These are the words of our Lord. They come to us and we Christians practice it. Whether we prostrate or stand or sit is irrelevant. But in Islam, you have a form of prayer, none of which can be linked back to Muhammad. Muslims can't show 5 times of prayer in the Quran. They can't show the use of hadiths in the Quran. They can't show the nature of their prostration in the Quran. It's innovation upon innovation upon innovation. It is a post hoc development of Islam. But yet Muslims also claim that Islam is a perfected religion at the time of Muhammad. Why do you change something that's perfect? If it's perfect, how can you improve upon it? If it's perfect, how can you make it better? But yet time and time again, through the development of Islam, we see exactly that, development and change. Development and change of something that is perfect cannot create perfection. If it was perfect at the beginning, you changing it will only make it less perfect, not more perfect. How can you improve upon something that God gave you? If Islam was perfected at the time of Muhammad, how can you improve upon it by creating hadiths? If it was perfected at the time of Muhammad, how can you improve upon it through the use of ijtihad? If it was perfected at the time of Muhammad, how can you improve upon it by adapting Salat? If it was perfected at the time of Muhammad, how can you make it better by inventing law schools? Any development or change to that which Muhammad had perfect at his own time can only mean imperfection because the source is a human source. Christianity, by contrast, is different. Christianity, by contrast, begins at the imperfection of man. It starts by saying that man is a sinner and corrupt, and therefore any system that you place over man, he will corrupt that system also. The point of the Christian faith is to mitigate the sinfulness of man, to improve man's nature, to make man better than he is born in his natural state, by reordering his values and by giving him a narrative to live by that is different from the one that he feels in his heart naturally. Because man naturally gravitates towards his lusts and his desires and his passions. But Christ gives us a narrative of self-denial and the reordering of our values based upon faith, hope and love. And I offer to you, Muslims who are listening to this on camera, that there is something better than Islam. Your religion logically fails. Your religion sociologically has failed. Your religion economically has failed. Your religion militarily has failed. Your religion in terms of its authorities has failed. But the Christian faith stands because you can be a disciple of Jesus from the 1st century to the 21st century because innovation and adaptation is part and parcel of the religion, because the Christian faith deals with ontology, it deals with human beings and the way of being human rather than a system of laws. And that is why it is a better way to live. Any questions before I go and get a cup of tea? No? Good. Good to see you. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Oh, thank you. Oh, come along. Okay. Thank you. Can I just put? Do you want to put this on camera? Yeah. Just so you come.
I switched it off. Bob, I switched it off. Tell me when you're ready. I'll switch it off.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to James, who's bought me these lovely gifts. Thank you very much, bro. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, mate.
God bless you. Take care. I'll be using these with Ash later. I'm going to go get a cup of tea because.
ContentCOE everything from your humility. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Don't worry,
Listen.
Okay, cool. So I'm back this week, and there are two things that I'd like to do from the camera. I'd like to bring to you. One is a speech from a person called Mohammad al-Qadra, and I'll get into that in a second. And the other thing I want to do is give you my top 10 most evil, wicked, and unjust things that Mohammed ever did. And so, that's probably the more spicy one. That's probably the one that pricked your ears more. So I'll give a quick rundown of that, and then we'll get on to the speech by Mohammad al-Qadra. So just very quickly, say you don't need to wait till the end to hear what the number one is. It goes, number 10,